Amen to that. I won't hurt you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need you to survive. Hey, hi, good morning. I'm so happy that so many of you have turned out. To all of my brother and sister elected officials that are with us today, thank you so much for coming. I see so many of you. I won't call you each by name, but just ask you if you could all stand up so they can recognize you and thank you for your service. I would appreciate that. Congress, why don't you lead it off? Everybody can mind standing up. Thank you all so much for everything that you do for the people of the city. To all of the clergy that are with us, to all of my brothers and sisters that are here, and for the children that are sitting in the audience. He promised me he wouldn't fall asleep while I spoke. We're on a tight schedule. The parade's supposed to start at 10 o'clock, so I'm going to cut my remarks very, very brief, please. If you look behind me, you should see the steeple for the St. Louis Cathedral. You can see it right over my shoulder, right down that beautiful street. And if you could take a moment and take a deep breath and think back many years to when our brothers and sisters first came to this sacred spot. This is Congo Square. And history reaches just across from the cathedral to here to talk about the pain and the sorrow that so many people went through to kind of lay the path for us to be here. And so we come to honor the life, we come to mourn the death, we come to recommit ourselves because a man named Martin Luther King lived and died. As Marika Lattis likes to always say, a fallen sparrow for the cause of justice. He died doing what he thought was right so those that came behind him could live. It sounds like somebody else had lived 2,000 years ago. 42 generations, right? All the way to him, and how many today? But you don't have to be born into it, you can choose to be of it. And Dr. King did. And yes, he fought for the cause of justice. Yes, he fought for equal opportunity. But as they said about the Lord, he was the light, he was the way. The way was nonviolence. And the nonviolence was the way to confront injustice. The nonviolence was the way to confront inequality. The nonviolence was the way because we know that it was rooted in love. And so the message is that love conquers all. And so we come to this day, and you made it exactly right. We have a way of making people miss. He was a man. He was a man. And if he was a man, then he was challenged by the things that all men are challenged by. And that would be fear. It would be uncertainty. It would be lack of clarity about which way we should walk. It would be somebody who might be daunted by those who would criticize us about which way we were going and doubt. You can't get it done. You can't make it happen. It's just too big. How did the walls of Jericho come down? How did that happen? They said it couldn't be done, but Joshua and everybody else, 6 days, right? Walked around, and at all one time, everybody came together, raised their voices, and something that nobody said could happen took place. And so the message today is the way, the nonviolent way. Too much violence on the streets. Amen. Back in the day, during the day of the movement, it was somebody hurting us. But now it's us hurting ourselves. Amen? Amen. If Dr. King were here today, he would shed a tear. You know he would. He would raise his voice, but he would be on his knee and he would shed a tear at what we are seeing on the streets of New Orleans. I don't need to talk about the rest of the country. Let's just talk about our home. Priya Street, General Pershing, Gertown, back of town, uptown, downtown, St. Roch, West Bank. Oh, no, don't let me forget the East Bank. All New Orleans East. And what we have happening on the streets of the city of New Orleans is unnatural. It does not have to be this way. And yes, we are in the United States of America, a physical place, but an idea where everybody can be free. Everybody can have an opportunity. But where there is freedom, freedom's not free, you know. It costs something. It costs effort. It costs time. But you got to come at it in the way. And the way is the nonviolent way. We have to change the culture of death and the culture of violence to a culture of life and to a culture of peace. And we know this because we've been taught it from the day that we were born, that love conquers all. When is the moment? When is the moment when young men in the city of New Orleans lose the light in their eyes and the joy on their face that turns to coldness in their heart? Dr. King said, I have a dream. I have a dream. And it rings in our ears like hope. But when a young man who was sentenced to death for killing somebody on the streets says that the playground is not a place for me to play, but a place for me to buy drugs, he does not have a dream. Where is his dream? How did his dream die? Oh yeah, it's his responsibility. He did what he did. But you know what? Your mama taught you this. When you point your finger at somebody else, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. And so the question is for all of us, are we going to come together? Are we going to come together, or are we going to be torn apart by silly things? Small things. Dr. King was torn apart by those. People around him yelling and screaming about stuff that did not matter. Things that were inconsequential. Things that were not purposeful or serious. How can we as human beings in our time of uncertainty not be captured by the things that make us small? And how can we find the things that make us big? A fallen sparrow for the cause of justice. And so, my friends, when you ask, what can you do? Is this too big for me? Am I too afraid? What step will I take? Yes, I have faith, but do I have works? Other way, on Priya Street, they would say, talk is cheap. So what you gonna do? And what can you do? Because it's so big, and fear is so powerful, and uncertainty, so much the work of the dark side, that all you have to do is the thing that you can do. So I'm going to leave you with this parable told by Wangari Maathai, Nobel Peace Prize winner from Kenya, Africa. A message from all the way. Back in the day, how you think everybody got to Congo Square? So we're going back to the beginning. And this is what the story that he told when everybody said, why should I do anything? Or what can I do because it's too big for me? There was a big fire destroying the forest. That sounds familiar. All of the animals fed except the sparrow fled. It flew to the river and it picked up 1 drop of water in its tiny beak and flew back and poured that drop on the fire. Again and again, it returned to the river, each time scooping up a single drop and pouring it on this fire that was engulfing everything. All the other animals, not some, all the other animals watched from ashore, and they laughed and they mocked. The harder they laughed, the harder the sparrow worked. Just what do you think you're doing? One of his brother animals asked. And without stopping his work, he answered calmly, I am doing what I can. That's all any of us can do, what we can. So here's my question, New Orleans. What you gonna do? Amen.